I'm not struggling. And so it's like, I am living this success, but here I am thinking like, I need to keep chasing for success, when really I just need to slow down and realize the success I have around me.
What's up, friends? Welcome back to the RE Junkies podcast, where we supply your regular fix of all things real estate. Make sure you're the first to get your dose of the RE Junkies podcast by subscribing on your favorite podcast platform or YouTube. I'm Brooks O'Hearn, joined by my co-host Kaiten Murphy, and today we have our great friend JP Kilduff. JP, how's it going, my man?
Good, man. I'm so excited to be on this podcast. You two are amazing people that I'd love to hear from.
Well, we feel the same way about you.
Oh,
Yes.
thank you. Thank you.
Yes, we are so excited to share. For those of you listening, JP and I have coached together for many years, and then we have recently reconnected through a lot of mindset and performance work and some new masterminds that we're both a part of in recent years. And JP is absolutely crushing it in multiple states on the East Coast. JP is a complete ninja in all things real estate. And then, dude, every time I look up, you have a new business that you're launching. And it's not just like, hey, I'm bouncing to like a new network marketing or some BS like that. Like I'm actually jumping in, starting a brand new business, and oh, by the way, it's already fully automated and outsourced. Like,
Oh, yeah. That's my
every
language
time
right
I
there,
see
man.
you, dude, every time I see you, it's like, all right, I'm
Bro,
impressed.
once you find the formula, you just got to take the logo off and put a new logo on, bro.
Yes.
I wish more
Absolutely.
entrepreneurs understood that. And also what's really cool about all your businesses is they all complement each other really, really well, even though they're all a little bit different, or in some cases, a lot of bit different.
Yeah. The one thing that, like, the analogy I always make when it comes to that is like the guy who's like, he's mining for oil and then he's got to pay for the trucks and then pay for the warehouse. And he's just like, why don't I just buy the trucks? I'll buy the warehouse and I'll just own the whole dang line. So that way I'm making money on all of it. And so that's like essentially how it's going down now.
That's exactly how I see you. So, JP, you got started. You were a delinquent turned military turned serial entrepreneur and influencer. We just talked about your specialization in the startup phase and building businesses with virtual teams and systems. So tell us a little bit more. Let's. I want to dive in at first, like specifically, how did you get started in real estate?
Yeah, so it was back, I was about 16 years into the military, and at that time, I was a drill instructor training recruits, which I absolutely love. Before that, I did computers and telephones, which was okay. But then, like, once I got into like training and mentoring and guiding people, I was like, yeah, this is what I really want to be doing, is like not computers and telephones. So it was during that time I was waking up at 5 in the morning and going to bed at 10 o'clock at night with the recruits. And for some crazy reason, I thought, oh, I've got plenty of time to start a real estate business while I'm working 90 hours a week training recruits. And so, I heard an ad on the radio for some real estate education, called the number, and went to their preview event, and then just kept going. Right. So, once I got into the actual program, it was like everything that I was looking for, right? Like, I was looking for, what am I going to do after the Coast Guard? Because I knew computers and telephones wasn't it. So real estate was always something that I've heard about. And so after going through and making it into the program, it was the systems, it was the checklist, it was the coaching, it was the network, it was the accountability. So it was like everything that I needed in order to be able to get started.
Absolutely. So, yeah, you didn't have much then by way of like real estate knowledge. Like a lot of people, they always talk about maybe they read Rich Dad Poor Dad, or they had followed some different influencers and people over the years. It sounds like you didn't have a ton of that, but you kind of knew about real estate, right?
Dude, I still have not read Rich Dad Poor Dad. I'm probably like the only real estate investor who has not read Rich Dad Poor Dad. And it's so funny because when you listen to all these people, they're like, that's how they got started, right? Is like the
Right.
idea of that came from that book. I still haven't read it. I probably should read it. There's probably some good stuff in there I could take away. But no, I didn't, right? Like I didn't have any, I was military from the moment I graduated high school. I joined the military, and real estate wasn't even a thing. I mean, the idea of it was something, but like no like education, no experience. Like I used a realtor to find a rental one time, when I was like in my early 30s, and that was about it.
Yeah. All right. All right.
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting too that you went through the, the real estate education space. There's so many gurus out there, and I think that a lot of people kind of give them a hard time. But we all went through the same program,
Yeah.
and it can fast track your success, or in a way, or at least your knowledge. So, did you? I mean, did you have a good experience going through that self education program?
Yeah, now being on the backside of it, when people ask me about, joining a real estate education, sometimes I tell them, I'm like, it's probably not for you, because really, like, what it's about is like taking action, right? Like when you sign up for a real estate education, it's about implementing and taking action. Like that's how stuff happens, right? And so, um, because I am an action taker, I have very high action filter, and it worked out great for me. Every time I got on the phone with my coach, I was just like, all right, give me more, because I know I'll do all this before we get on the phone next time. And when we did, it was like, to his surprise, that I actually completed everything that they gave me and a little bit more. And so it was, I think if you're an action taker, and it definitely will accelerate you getting to your first deal, your next deal, or even like people who have done deals before, but they've never done it within a system, like nothing that's predictable or repeatable. Like going through a real estate education program would be something that would benefit them. So yeah, I saw all those people knocking the gurus, saying, oh, you can spend less money and you can learn by yourself, or go get a mentor. And like, I see so many people saying, hey, like they get on, they're brand new, they're like, I need a mentor. It's like, yeah, who doesn't? Right? Like
Right.
you got to pay for that crap. Like, so like most people who are in a position to be able to mentor you aren't just going to give their time away for free anyways. And so, yeah, man, I'm all for real estate education.
Well, you're either going to pay with your money or your time. You
Yeah.
take your time to learn it, or you can pay money to fast track the learning.
Yeah, and I think
Yeah.
that there's like, when it comes to the real estate education too, right? Like it's like everything. There are good real estate education companies, and there are companies that are out there just to take your money. And so, anybody who's looking at getting a real estate education from a company like that, like they just really need to do their due diligence and make sure that they're spending their money on the right company.
Yes. Yes, on the right company, and then make sure they're actually going to take that action, like we talked about. I can remember so many times that you and I would catch up as coaches, while we were coaching together, and you mentioned like your coach would be so surprised that you feel like you took care of all the action items, and you and I would just like virtually bang our heads against the wall, because we've got these students that just like, you give them 4 action items, they come back 3 weeks later and they're like, okay, now what were my action items again? And I'm like, cool. We've
Yeah.
made a lot of progress, guys. I love this. We'll just go ahead and give you the same 4 action items, and hopefully schedule you again in 3 weeks, because hopefully something changes. So yeah, you are part of the minority that actually puts stuff in action. Like that's
Yeah. And that's like when people always ask me that, I said, all right, look, I'm probably not the right person to ask this question for a couple of reasons. One, like you said, I'm a small percentage. I'm like, when they say, results are not typical, like that's me, right? Because
right.
I'm going to take advantage of everything that I bought into. And also, I'm a super positive dude. So you don't typically hear a lot of negative stuff, because it's like, I know I'm responsible to get the results. Right.
Yes.
And I feel like, so I have to give those 2 caveats before I answer the question, because I'm like, I think they're like trying to come to me to figure out, like, they want me to like badmouth and like kind of help them form their decision not to do it. But I'm like, I'm the wrong dude, man. Like,
Right. Right. I can tell you the success. I love that. For those of you listening at home, if you want to follow along for JP, JP, his links to Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn are all in the show notes. His handle is jpkilduff.me on all social networks. JP is constantly dropping value for new real estate investors trying to get their first deal. He's also dropping value for those investors who maybe have done a few deals and have hit a low point and maybe need to get over the hump. So if that is you, you need to give JP a follow. He's dropping daily tips, mindset, performance, and all things real estate on his Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn. Check him out again. That's at jpkilduff.me. And the links are also in the show notes. So, JP, tell us at first, what was your low point or your worst entrepreneurial moment? We've all got that pit that we hit, right? And for you coming out of the military and then into entrepreneurship, the three of us on here know, not many of our listeners know, like the mindset difference between the military and then entrepreneurship. And what was that point? Like, when did that hit?
Yeah. And this might be a surprise to all your listeners and to you as well. It's like, dude, my low point was just this year, right? I mean, like, I am literally on the tail end, like weeks from where my low point was. And coming out of the military actually hit me a lot harder than I thought it would. 20 years of service and then transitioning to a civilian. And I didn't realize it when it was happening, right? And I think that's the way pits are sometimes, right? It's like you don't realize that you're in the pit, and it's so easy to like look back and say, "Holy crap! Okay, all of this makes sense because it's all lining up, and I'm in the pit, right?" And I was literally just having this conversation with my executive assistant probably 3 weeks ago. I'm like, I'm in a freaking pit. I'm in a pit. I'm in the pit right now, right? And so transitioning from the military to civilian life. And then also with that comes transitioning from where we were living in Virginia to now coming back home to Florida for the first time in 20 years. And this is going to be like my forever home now, right? It's like I'm coming back home and I'm looking to get established. And so at this last place that we were there for 5 years, which is way longer than we've ever been anywhere. And so we really established roots. So I have transitioning into civilian life, then I have transitioning states, kids are transitioning schools. So it's like my entire life, now that I look back at it, it's like I was just in this state of transition for like the last year and a half, which is why, by the way, yeah, I've created a couple of businesses. It's because I didn't know what I wanted to do. And so it's like my default was like, oh, create a business, find my purpose. Oh, that didn't work. I mean, it worked. It's creating money, but it wasn't what I was looking for. I didn't know what I was looking for. I was so freaking lost. And I'm such in this transition, right? So it's like create a business, next thing I know, I've got 7 LLCs, and people are like, yo, like, what do you need all these businesses for? And I'm like, like, I'm just like, oh, I'm really good at starting business, right? Like, I'm really good at the systems. And like, that's what I was telling myself. But looking back, now I notice I was just lost, man. Like, I didn't know what I wanted to do. And it wasn't until I actually got here. I've been here for 5 weeks. I just got my office set up. I got my gigantic, I don't know if you could see it, dude. This thing is 8 foot by 4 foot. This blackboard back here, it's legit.
Oh,
dude, it's
I couldn't
so
tell if that
legit.
was a blackboard or like the corner of a TV I
board.
was seeing.
No, it's a glass board.
That's awesome.
It's a glass board that's black. It's pretty legit. But anyway, it's like, so I'm starting to create for myself, like, this is my life now, right? This is where I'm going to set roots. And so I'm like just now starting to come out of that pit into like what is going to be like my new norm, so to speak.
Yeah. That makes total sense. And I mean, this is the thing. I'm glad you brought this up, and I'm glad you're able to be transparent with that while you're still going through it and just starting to come on the upslope out of it. Because what we tell our listeners is like there are pits all over the place.
Mhm.
And many entrepreneurs, I mean, like I've been in real estate for 10 years. And I could tell you there have been many pits, right? I mean, you hit points where it's like everything just like grinds to a halt. And I think it's different than those entrepreneurs who are like every 6 months they decide they have a free day. So they're going to like completely dismantle their business and rebuild the structure with all new
Right.
employees, a new name, a new purpose, a new mission. It's like a pit is different, and that's so thank you very much. Now granted, you're just on this upslope and just starting to get out of this pit. But share some lessons that you've learned recently, and as you are now realizing you were in the pit, and then oops, I keep hitting my microphone. Um, as you realize you were in the pit, and then you start to look back, and things now become a whole lot more clear. Uh, what are some of the learning lessons that you have noticed and can share with the audience about the pit, and especially making such drastic life changes?
And wait, before you go there though, I think it's really important because we're all familiar with this term the pit because we went through all of this, this coaching together and the mindset and training and stuff like that. How did you realize you were in the pit? And because a lot of people, they go and 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 they're like, I don't know, I'm not really happy, but I don't know anything else. Maybe I'm just going to push harder because maybe that's what. So how did you even realize you were in the pit in the first place?
Oh man,
That is
you
a
just said
great
it
question.
perfectly. You just
That
said
is
it
a great
perfectly.
question.
And actually it's a really deep question. And so here's what I would say is like it really starts with understanding like what is your baseline? Like where are you at? How do you operate, and understanding where your baseline is? And now I can say that now because I'm like, okay, that's what I was missing. I was missing my baseline looking back because I did exactly what you're saying. It's like, okay, I just need to push harder. I just need to set a bigger goal. Like I'll be happier when I do this, right? And what ended up happening is I was getting further and further and further away from my baseline. And like that was like my idea of grinding and hustling and all that other stuff, right? And so what I realized and how it came to my attention was like I actually slowed down enough to be able to like realize like I've not been operating the way that I want. So check it out. Like I actually made a post about this the other day. Like I have this idea, right? We all do. We all have this idea of what success looks like, right? And we're all chasing this successful life. If you're a real estate entrepreneur, it's financial freedom, it's a rent portfolio. It's, once I get this, I'll have all this happiness. And what I didn't realize until I slowed down, Caden, was like I have all the success I need in my life right now. Like the success is all around me. I'm healthy. I have a beautiful family. I have an amazing house. I'm not struggling. And so it's like I am living this success, but here I am thinking like I need to keep chasing for success when really I just need to slow down and realize the success I have around me. And I think when I slowed down and I really understood and picked that up, that's when I found my baseline, right? Like that's when I realized like, okay, like here is what it looks like. Here's where I just came from, which was this pit, and
Mhm.
here's how I get back to it. And so um I think really a lot of it is just like understanding what you have around you and then, creating that baseline.
It's like taking a pulse check. And that's so funny. I actually made a post about this like last week too, because when I entered into the real estate industry, and I think it's partly due to a lot of these gurus or maybe fake gurus that are out there saying this is how you're supposed to build a successful business. And I
Mhm.
came in and when I joined the real estate industry, it was like I have to be the best in my market. That is
Yeah.
what the definition of success is. And I kind of went back and I was like, I'm going to sacrifice so many things I love for so long to be the best in the business. And of course, this comes with sacrifice, but my version of success is not to be the best in the business. It's to go on, vacations with my family and spend time with
Yeah.
my friends. And so I think that kind of taking a step back and slowing down and realizing what your version of success is so important.
Yeah. It's always one of those things. It's like a destination, right? I think a lot of people look at it, and I think you're right. Like the seed gets planted like when you listen to a lot of gurus. They're like
Mhm.
this like they plant that seed, right? They have you just dream about what your life could be like once you flip 100,000 homes or whatever, right?
Mhm.
And it's like, so once that's there, it's like that's what you're constantly chasing. But I think really, like, when it all boils down to it, yes, there is, like you said, like everyone's going to sacrifice at the beginning, right? There is a grind to get up and running, and it's about like like enjoying the journey rather than chasing like and trying to get to the destination. And I know that's so cliche, so many people say it, and what I'm finding out is a lot of these cliche things are like, if you really stop and think about it, like it's for
Makes
real,
sense.
right? Like it's for real. Like
It's cliche
enjoy
because
the
it's
journey.
almost too simple.
Yeah,
Like
100%.
yes, humans try to overcomplicate shit. And I'll never forget this. You talked about different levels of success. I'll never ever forget this Gary V clip where he said, like, the cold hard truth is the vast majority of entrepreneurs are never meant to own multi-million dollar businesses. And he's like, and you know what, that's totally fine. Like if you want to be, he's like, there's an ROI on owning multiple multi-million dollar businesses, and then there's an ROI on just simply doing what you're really good at and making 80 or $100,000 a year. And he said the ROI over here is far more on the happiness side, and the
Yeah.
ROI over here is far different. And he's like, there's a wide range between, but you have to know that there is a range of success out there, and know that. And like if you say that at entrepreneur masterminds and stuff, people will like laugh you out of the room or like shame you out of the room almost. um
Yeah.
at times, right? If you're in the wrong crowd. Not that's a very vast generalization, but I did say that one time to a guy poolside in Mexico, and we were at a real estate event, and he just like laughed at me. I was like, I don't I don't think we're I think we're on the same page here. We're thinking about things a little differently.
Yeah, dude, and that's what I
Or
love about Gary Vee is he's making it like, he, even though happiness may be corny, like he is like planting his flag in the happiness, right? And saying like
yeah.
that's what it's really about. It's about being happy. So I love the fact that he pushes that narrative so hard, because I see so many unhappy entrepreneurs, real estate investors, and all of that, which is really why I kind of got into like the mindset and performance coaching, right? Like I noticed, and you probably did too, Brooks, like, as you're coaching, it's not the content, it's the mindset of all these people who start off. It's like they say it like 80-20, right? It's like 80% mindset, 20%, all of the technical skill that you need. And so it's like
Mhm.
I noticed most of my coach calls for 4 years while I was coaching real estate, I was coaching mindset more than anything. Not, I mean, and then I would follow it up at the end with an email that said, okay, now here's all the stuff you need to implement after you get your mind right. You know what I mean?
Right. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, coaching, especially one on one, in the. I mean, we can speak for the real estate space specifically, but this applies to all entrepreneurship. It ends up becoming a level of therapy. Like I for
Yeah.
lack of a better term, but you're right. You're so right. The mindset side. So, tell us more about that and your desire, because like we mentioned, all three of us, we reconnected at these mindset and performance events, and then through that mastermind. Um, Tell us more about your specific role and goal with your mindset and performance coaching and breakthrough coaching.
Yeah. I actually love this. And I just did a video this morning because two of the people that I did breakthroughs with just recently this year, they were suffering from analysis paralysis, right? Like they had all of the technical skill, but they just couldn't get out of their own way. And both of them have their first deal after doing breakthroughs with us. Yeah. So that's really the goal, right? The goal is, because like we've seen it for so long, that mindset was really what was holding a lot of people back. My goal with Inspiredable is really to, we've gone through hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of hours of education, of performance, like all the stuff that we've all been through, right? And it's like that was exactly what I felt like I was missing in my coaching, to be able to help people get over the hump faster, right? Not in 6 months, not in 12 months, but like literally, like, with breakthrough coaching, you can do that stuff in a day. Because really what I've learned is like, it's not even like, it's so deep down in our subconscious mind, the things that control the way that we make decisions and act and behave, right? That, once you can actually change that, it's like everything on top of that just naturally falls in line and allows people to get past the analysis paralysis and past, the self-judgment and and all that other stuff. And so that's really like the goal of Inspiredable, is to reach as many real estate entrepreneurs as we possibly can and be able to help them, get past that mindset so they can get their first deal. Or like you said, man, if they're in a rut, they've done, 4 or 5 deals and it's like something has happened. Maybe they had a bad deal that scarred them and they're just like, they can't get past that. It's like, let's fix that so that way you can get out there and go crush it and do what you want to do. And so that's really the goal.
I love that. I love that. I mean, limiting beliefs, limiting decisions. You just touched on past trauma, grief, like so many different things, and it's we're intentionally vague when we discuss mindset and performance coaching with students and with potential clients, because it's all different.
Yeah.
It's every
Yeah.
single time you meet with a client is completely different. Every breakthrough you run is completely different. I mean, it's just it's wild. So that's awesome, and I love that you have so perfectly merged the real estate with the mindset and performance, because I think that is truly like a perfect mix, especially for you. That is I love to see it, man.
Appreciate it, man. Thank you very much.
Yes, you're welcome. You're welcome. So let's talk about um, a bit more forward looking, right? You've got a lot of businesses. You've got your real estate business. You just launched a new CRM. You've got a skip tracing company. You've got your breakthrough coaching, and then probably a handful others that I don't even know about. Those are like the businesses that I've interacted with, and we've discussed together. But talk to us about the next 1 year, 2 years, 5 years. Like what is lighting your fire right now? Where are you headed?
Yeah, so two things are really on my radar right now that we're going to be focusing a lot of energy on, which is really building. I have a Airbnb business as well with my wife, which I absolutely love. The fact that she's into the entrepreneurial space in that manner, and she does such an amazing job with that company. Love My Stay is the name of that company, and so really now that we're down here in Florida is just, taking everything that I've learned from Anchored Homes on how to generate leads and how to lock down deals with the exit strategy of, just keeping, adding to the Airbnb portfolio. And so I just got to be careful because like, I'm like, we can do 20 this year. And she's like, how about 2? And I'm like, all right, yeah, we should probably just like, I go a little bit slower. So that, which has kind of been the theme of mine over the last like month or two, is just like slow down, right?
Yeah.
So that's really one of the big things, is getting up and running here in the real estate space for the purpose of the Airbnbs, and then also breakthrough coaching with Inspiredable, and I also collaborate with another coach, and we have a thing that we're doing right now called the Wholeness Co. And we have 2 specialties. One is we love to travel and speak to youth groups, because we believe that, like here I am at 40 going through all of this training and finally understanding like my mind and my body and like how I actually make decisions and being able to create the life that I really want. And I'm like, man, like I needed this when I was a teenager. Like when I was like at my worst, where I could have used a mentor the most was when I was a teenager. And so I said, that's where I'm being called to do work, right? Is go work with teens. And I love kids. I mean, I'm a big kid myself. I don't know if you guys can't see me. I'm like, I've got my hat backwards and my t-shirt and I'm just a big kid. And so it's like, I relate very well with kids. I do very well with them. And so we've spoken to several youth groups all across the East Coast. And it really is something that brings us a lot of joy, is to see these kids, like just one little thing and just like see the light bulb go off. And then to hear the feedback from the parents are like, I don't know what you said to my kid, but like they're acting different, they're speaking different, they're thinking different. And I'm just like, yeah, that's it. That's so,
Goal.
Yes.
we're really beefing up. We wanted to speak to at least 10 youth groups before the end of the year. So if anybody has a youth group that they think could benefit from mindset, just talking about like anxiety and how beliefs are formed and, how to develop good communication skills, like that's what we're doing for the youth. And so those are the two big things, along with breakthrough coaching with real estate. I can't not like say all of my businesses. They're all like, it's like, but those are the two big ones.
We'll put them all in the show notes. Don't worry. We'll just list them all out. All right. I'm gonna send you an email and be like, all right, give me a quick one-liner for every business so people know what you're actually up to, because we've mentioned like 9 different businesses already. So.
Yeah.
But they really are all interlinked. Like JP is literally just like a one-stop shop for everything you need.
That's right. Drive up. I'll give you my address. Drive up, and you can just see the menu. Which one you want?
Yeah. No, it is, and that's perfect. Like you said, buy the whole distribution system, buy the whole cycle, right? Like the whole niche, and it makes the most sense. And really, a lot of these have just spawned from complementary things. I mean, I know some of these things have been like just things you've needed to do in your own business, and then you're like, all right, let's just put a team together and outsource this, and then I'll basically just I'll allow others to use the same service and I'll get to use it for free.
Exactly.
Almost. Like it's not like every business is doing 7 figures yet. But it's all there, and that's really cool. You mentioned, and I wanted to circle back to this, the youth side. And you specifically mentioned you are that person right now that you needed when you were younger. And first off, I love that message, and I think everyone should have that as part of their internal purpose, because I resonate so hard with that. Now, granted, you and I were probably very different children because I was not delinquent and didn't go to the military, but there were still very specific things that I needed and searched for as a kid, and still want to then provide that back to the next generation. So I want to know some things about you as a kid, and then I mean, we already learned kind of what you're providing to them, but kind of tie that all together.
Oh my gosh. It's a pretty rough childhood, man. I mean, like, delinquent is probably like an easy, like a soft approach to how bad I really was. Like it was
It's a broad term.
Yeah. It so as a child, my parents, they did everything they could to buy their first house, and then they worked 3 jobs, so they were never really around as much. Even though they worked 3 jobs, we didn't have a lot of money. We were always struggling to pay the mortgage. And before like I go on, because I know that the picture that paints could be bad. The one thing that came from that was like we didn't have a lot of money, but what we did have in our household was a lot of love, right? And so it's like love was our currency, not money. And so it's like the quality time and the love that we had made such an impact on who I am and who I've turned out to be, like such a giving person, such a loving person. Like I was ready to start a family at 18 years old, dude. Like I wanted my own little mini me that I just could love because I had so much love to get. I wanted to have a child at 18 and I ended up having it at 20. So, even though we were poor, even though my parents weren't around, like there was still a lot of love whenever they were. But when they weren't around, oof, Man, I was out running the street, doing a lot of bad things. I was very easily influenced by the people around me who were really like they were worse than I was, and so I would say like I was just like a baby version of what they were when we were running around. And I really got away with a lot of stuff, man. I mean, like I like going to the military was like to save my life from the journey that I was on, the path that I was on. The military is what pulled me out of my environment. I mean, it was like you name it, dude. Like drugs, like crime, like all that stuff, man. It was pretty rough. So, but you know what I think, man? Like it really, again, like I'm a pretty positive person. I look at all that stuff like people are like, oh, like, you had it pretty rough. It's like I actually learned so much of what it takes to have grit, to survive, to, be a good communicator, to get things that I couldn't afford. You know what I mean? So I learned so much, and I feel like that's developed me into this person who's like very what's resilient, right? I'm very resilient to a lot of different things, and so I appreciate my upbringing, man. Like it's made me who I am.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think you have to. I love that perspective on it. And the things that were going through my head was like two things. One is when we all learned about values levels. And this may be
Yeah,
like for those listeners, just kind of just work with us here for a second. And all of this is going to come out in this episode and future episodes of like what all I'm talking about. So when we learned about values levels and you talk about the one thing that stood out the most to me about values level 3 as you're like starting to come into your own individual sense of self is when we were taught like do not if you do not get into values level 4, a system, a job, a school, the military, whatever that may be, you will either end up in prison or dead. And that was like if that's where you stop progressing and you are so outwardly selfish, like you will end up in prison or dead.
And
dude, and
values
that's
level 3 is a very rebellious stage for those of you who are
Yes.
not aware.
yeah,
Yes.
very very much like this is me, this is who I am. Very expressive, very much like win at all costs. I win, you lose mentality. So, and that's
Yes.
exactly the way it was before I joined the military. Like that was I got to a point where it was like you know, it was literally going to be, all my buddies are either in jail or they're dead, right? Like, my one best friend got busted for the biggest meth lab in the county, right? Locked up, gone.
Jeez,
A
yeah.
couple other people got their door kicked in, strangled with telephone cords, right? Like, and it's like, like, and I know you guys are like hoping for some juicy stuff. That's about as much as I'll share. But I mean, like
That's fine. That's fine. Like the
that's
lessons are
where I came from, right? And that was the
yeah.
path that I was on. And so it was like that was my crisis, right? Like that was the moment where I'm like, I looked and I finally realized like I can't trust myself to make the right decision. So I joined the military. And man, you talk about making decisions. They make all the decisions for
They
me. What
make
to
all the
wear, where to
decisions.
eat,
Yep.
how to eat. You know what I mean? Like all of that. So
Yeah, I mean that is the ultimate system. Like talk about going from a life of ruled by me, I do whatever the heck I want to
yeah.
now I don't get to make any decisions, like the stark difference. And then the second thing I wanted to say about values levels is and we could discuss this later, but I'd be really curious to see your results previous to your personal breakthrough um, and your values level inventory. Your results there for me and not me because I feel like you have experienced so much and you've had such very defined seasons like we've just discussed, right? You had your delinquent childhood, then you had your military career for 20 years. And then I know your entrepreneurship overlapped the military career, but you've now retired and you are now fully into the entrepreneurship. And so it's just so intriguing to see how defined some of those seasons have been for you, because that's not always the case with many people.
Yeah, and I think it speaks a lot to my character too, because I'm like all in. Anything I do, it's like I'm all in, right? It's like
Yes.
so, it's either so when you're all in on something, it means that you're pretty much all out on everything else. That's not that one thing,
Yep.
right? And so
That's
like
right.
to your point, dude, like that's my characteristics.
Absolutely.
Well, you
Absolutely.
realize that about yourself too. And it's cool just to listen to you explain all these different seasons of life and like still the awareness you had in that season to be like, not sure this is for me. I'm going to do this. And then, like you said, you've got a high action filter. And so you took action on it. A lot of people get stuck in the analysis paralysis and they're like, well, I don't know if this is for me, but if I do this, it's like, let me make 15 pros and cons lists. So it's
Yeah.
cool to see how you've just been like, nope, not for me. We're going to this now. And then you do it.
Yeah. Well, action creates growth, right? So it's like if you don't take action, how will you even know? So it's like you got to get past the list making and take action to actually figure it out.
Right. Right. You're completely right. So for those of you listening along, we talked about many of JP's businesses. I want to highlight one of them right now, and then as promised, we will put a few more in the show notes as well. But one of them that I use is bestskiptracer.com. For those of you looking, you can see his little Best Skip Tracer bear right on his microphone there. For those of you watching along, Skippy the bear on his microphone. And Best Skip Tracer, I have to give you guys props. Truly the best skip tracing for real estate investors and just real estate professionals that I've ever used. You guys have A, the lowest cost, B, the fastest turnaround, and C, the most accurate results. I mean, we've put you guys up against a handful of other skip tracing providers, and you guys are by far the most accurate in that arena. So for those of you who would like to check out Best Skip Tracer's service, he's got skip tracing as low as 8 cents a lead, and we will have a link in the show notes. And if you use that link, you can get 50% off your first month service at Best Skip Tracer. So 50% off your first month subscription at bestskiptracer.com. Click the link in the show notes for that.
Yeah, do not go to my website directly or you cannot get the Brooks and Caton special discount.
You cannot get the Junkies special. All right.
Junkie special.
Guys.
You got that discount code, man?
You got that discount code? You got that discount code? JP, the next section, this is one of our favorite sections so far in the interviews we've done. It's the lightning round. And as we want to remind everybody that there is no prep. Our interview guests get some of our questions ahead of time so they can know what's coming. This lightning round, they get no prep. And JP, just first thing that comes to mind, just rattle it off and let's have some fun. All right.
He took his hat off for this.
I had to take my hat off.
It's
getting serious. My palms are sweaty. I'm ready.
All right. If you could sit on a bench and chat with someone for 1 hour, who would it be?
Abraham Lincoln.
Whoa, quick.
Ooh.
We got to have a little insight into why.
I actually, as an entrepreneur and an influencer, I actually look at a lot of people who have been able to make change within an industry and be able to communicate it so clearly. And I feel like Abraham Lincoln was one of those people. Like I always go back to a lot of his quotes. And he's just, for his time, like he did something that other people weren't doing. And so I would just love to sit down and just, pull on his beard a little bit and see if I can get some of that wisdom.
Pull on his beard a little bit. I love it. Okay. What is the craziest and legal thing that you've ever done for cash?
Oh my gosh. Let's see.
You're scrappy. I know this is a good one.
Yeah. Well, you said legal, so that takes a lot of it out of the running. I would say I actually took books and I would try to sell books on the street, like just regular books, like to people who were just walking by. I would just try to like pitch them on whatever this book was. It didn't matter what it was. I'd pitch them on this book and I would sell it to them. And oftentimes, like I would get people to actually give me more than what I would pay for it. So
that's amazing.
That was kind of crazy. Like, I don't even know why I did that. It made no sense at all.
The mark of a true salesman.
I love that. And for the record, everyone that legal caveat is in everyone's question. Not just yours.
Yeah,
So,
that's not just for you.
Not just mine.
yeah,
We don't want to
worry about it.
implicate you on all of the podcast platforms.
That's
Yes.
right. Thank you. I
Yes.
appreciate that. Good looking out.
Yes. JP, when you were a kid, what did you want to be when you grew up?
A veterinarian.
All right.
Nice.
All
I
right.
love that.
If I could do it all over again, though, I would want to be an astronaut. I freaking love space. And I think if I would have loved space back then, I probably would have pursued that and been an astronaut. So, but veterinarian was all the way until about 7th grade, until I realized how much school you had to go through to be a veterinarian. And I'm like, I'm out.
Done. Yep.
I'll just get a dog and pet my dog every day. We're good.
That was me. That was
Same
me
thing.
with an attorney. I wanted to be an attorney so bad because I could debate. I can articulate any point, and my parents used to say I can argue anything, and I was like, I'm not arguing here. Like we are full on debating. Like this is an intellectual debate here. This is not an
Right.
argument.
You're like, let's
And-
define argument because
Right,
this isn't
right.
one of them.
Like, let me give you the few reasons why this is not an argument. And they're like, would you go to law school? And then I started looking it up, and I was like, no,
Too much
sorry.
school.
No.
Kaiten, what did you want to be when you were growing up?
Oh, I wanted to be a lot of things. I think the one that stands out the most was obviously a pop star. So,
a pop star, nice.
Yeah, that didn't require a lot of school. So that could have been great for me. But the problem was that I wasn't a great singer. So kind of
I guess
failed me.
if auto-tune would have existed back then, you'd have been good to go.
The next T-Pain.
Yeah, that's right.
I don't even think auto-tune could have saved me. So I don't know. I mean, there's not enough auto-tune in the world for me.
I kind of feel that way about myself too.
Yeah. Although
Anyway.
this is funny. Like you mentioned the pop star. So my brother and I, we used to use like the pipe cleaners and like wrap them around our
Get
ears.
out of here. Like a Backstreet Boy?
Just like the Backstreet Boys. The Backstreet Boys and NSYNC. Dude, we used to go downstairs in our parents' basement. We had this big, huge screen TV. It was either like we were freaking balling hard on Madden for like 12 hours a day, or we would be like watching NSYNC and Backstreet Boys, and we would take the pipe cleaners and we would literally like try to reenact all their dances.
Dude, that's what's
learn
up.
all their moves and stuff. Oh yeah, we thought.
Oh, I love learning
the
this about
Backstreet
you.
Boys. Yeah, that was.
I really
that
hope
was our
Cheryl
jam.
has some videos somewhere.
Right? Oh, I'm going to have to hit her up.
I will be texting her right after we finish this. Okay, my last question for you. If you could retire tomorrow and everything was taken care of financially, businesses, things like that, what would you do? What would you spend your time doing?
I would spend every waking moment with my kids and my wife. My family is like my number one. And so, if I didn't have to be in this office making money to support us, I would be with them. I would be volunteering in their school. I would be their coach for every sport. I'd be everything. That would be what I would do. And I would be 100% content for the rest of my life.
I love it. I love it. And the last question in the lightning round is fill in the blank. My all-time favorite book is
How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie.
Great
love
book.
that.
Not Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
To be clear,
I was gonna preface it with that. Since you didn't read Rich Dad Poor Dad, I got to ask you a question. No, that's perfect. That's perfect. I read that at least once a year. I love that book.
Such a great book, dude.
Yes. Okay. Last segment, and then we'll get you out of here. So, if you lost everything, and all you had was just simply your knowledge, and you had to go back and start over to close a deal in 30 days. And I think actually what's coming up for me is your oldest son, and you just did something similar to this. So you talk about him being your mini-me. If you lost everything except your knowledge, you had to go back and close your first deal within 30 days. Give the listeners a short blueprint of what would you do?
And I still had all my knowledge.
All your knowledge, yes.
All right. It's very simple. It's one action item. go knock on a door. Seriously, like if I had all my knowledge and all I had to do was speak to somebody, I would drive to the nearest house that looked like it was in the worst condition in the best neighborhood, and I would knock on the door and I would help that person get into a different house so that way I could buy that house. I mean, door knocking, in my opinion, is one of those things that is like, it's the most effective. It's the hardest thing for most people to do because it's like you have to face your fears on everything, public speaking, your self-image, like out, like all of it, right? And so it's like it's the one thing that I believe, like I think if more real estate investors did door knocking, they would get more deals quicker.
Completely agree. Perfect. All right, JP, we appreciate you coming on the show, man. This has been amazing and definitely a unique episode from some of the things that we've touched on.
Oh,
And that's
good. I'm
perfect.
happy. I hope that's good.
That
Great.
is. It's very on brand for you. Kaiten and I are very much about branding, and this has been the most on brand JP episode I think we could have created.
Yes.
So
Love it.
we genuinely appreciate it.
Thank you.
And thank you guys for joining us today. If you like this week's dose of the RE Junkies podcast, please subscribe and leave us a review on your favorite podcast platform. If you have a crazy real estate story or a great case study, click the submission link in the show notes to be featured in a future episode. Submissions can remain anonymous. And we'll catch you junkies next time on the only real estate podcast of its kind.